Meanwhile,
more than 60 people have been arrested after celebrations in New York following the Knicks' historic NBA win. Fans in Times Square running for their lives after shots were fired.
So today was the Knicks championship parade in New York, and would it exactly surprise anyone to find out that the entire event was effectively ruined because people decided to start rioting and causing problems? We had some ghetto thug, a super predator, to quote Hillary Clinton, try to start shooting people in the middle of Times Square, and you listen to that and think to yourself, of course that would happen. Of course the Knicks championship parade would be shut down because some thug is trying to shoot people, right? But I think that honestly, these Knicks celebrations over the past week have been a prime illustration of why we can't have nice things anymore. The breakdown of high trust society in America sort of happening right in front of your eyes, although you could really argue that high trust society is already gone from most urban centers in this country. But, you know, in total fairness, I am going to say something nice, which is that I genuinely believe 90 to 95% of these Knicks fans who are going to this stuff are just there to celebrate their team. It's a historic win. They want to have a good time. They're not there to cause problems. But as is the case with so many different things in our society, it's that 5 to 10% of lunatics who just have to ruin it for everybody, right? They're the ones who are causing the property damage, starting the riots, trying to shoot people. And really, what is the fundamental crisis we face? Why is it that our cities are dangerous? They're unlivable. People don't want to be in the center, for example, of many of America's most historic places, right? The icons of our civilization. You would think that to an extent, places like New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Chicago, these should be shining cities on a hill. Why are they not? Well, it's because, frankly, we are too cowardly as a society that to do what needs to be done, which is to say to the, 3 to 5% of our society who are basically the repeat criminals here, right? The individuals constantly engaging in antisocial behavior and causing the problems for everybody else. You wonder why when you go to a CVS and Target, everything is locked up these days and it's just this big pain, it's this big hassle. Yeah, who ruined that for everybody else? The very people who, we refuse to bring real criminal penalties against for their actual actions, and then everybody else basically just has to live in this crappy society where nobody trusts each other and everything's breaking down and all the products are locked up. But hey, how about the rest of 99% of society has to suffer because this 1% of people just decide to ruin it for everybody, and we refuse to do anything about it. And that's just a prime example today. But anyways, we'll bring you some of these scenes out of the championship parade, because we had Mamdani, first of all, largely thanks to his own, not just incompetence, but frankly, ego and self-aggrandizement. He caused a bunch of problems today that outraged a bunch of Knicks fans. So yes, to an extent, you could argue that the disaster we saw today in Manhattan is partially a byproduct of the city and the Mamdani administration. But at the same time, I wouldn't even entirely blame him, because maybe there's a reason why he roped off and basically blocked so many of these people from coming to the actual parade, because having seen what these people did the last several times there was a game in New York City, perhaps it's justifiable to say, oh, these supposed quote-unquote sports fans are crazy, they're going to riot, they're going to cause a bunch of problems, they already ruined stuff for everybody else, therefore we have to take extra safety precautions as a city because these people want to act like barbarians and they want to be uncivilized and they want to just engage in a bunch of antisocial nonsense. That's exactly what took place. So we'll explain all of that. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work, and it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, so this all began today as apparently only a small amount of people were allowed to actually get into the barricades and watch the parade up close with their own eyes, which caused a bunch of outrage, which is really funny because, first of all, if you remember when Trump showed up to Madison Square Garden for that one game, we had Van Jones and all these other Democrats accusing him of destroying the vibes, because I guess because of that, the watch party outside of Madison Square Garden got shut down, and they said that was due to Secret Service concerns, and that's all Trump's fault, you know? They were actually blaming Trump even for the riots that were taking place down the street after the Knicks lost, because they said, oh, that's all due to Trump shutting down the watch party, to which I say, first of all, no. If those people were going to cause fights and all these problems and destroy taxis and beat up the Spurs fans or something, I'm not sure their location mattered, whether that was happening right in front of Madison Square Garden or a couple of blocks away. But what's hilarious is, and we didn't even talk about this on the channel, but for game 4, right? That was game 3 that Trump showed up. For game 4, Mamdani still continued the policy, even though Trump was not there. It was not a Secret Service thing, right? Of not allowing the MSG watch party anymore. So clearly it was never actually anything to do with Trump. And by the way, why maybe did the city of New York continue that policy? It's actually because, not because of Trump or anything like that, but because the ghetto idiotic fans were causing the problems. They basically understood, oh, if we allow that to happen, they're going to riot, they're going to fight, there's going to be all this chaos outside of the stadium. We can't have that happen, and so we're going to just shut it down, continuing going forward. And again, that's what low trust society looks like. That's what happens when the small proportion of antisocial members of society, right, which is to say, people who don't want to engage in civilization, people who don't want to conform to basic societal norms, such as we're not going to riot and beat people up and destroy things over a sports game. That's how they ruin it for everybody else. Prime example of that right here. But I think, to be honest, that probably carried over. Probably the city of New York understood, oh, you know, these people, we see what these people keep on doing. We're going to basically close off the parade and make it a de facto private event. And that caused a bunch of outrage with maybe even non-fighting antisocial people who just wanted to go and see the parade. But hey, again, that's what happens when you allow antisocial behavior to break down high trust society and ruin everything for everybody else, because nobody wants to do anything meaningful to stop the small band of ghetto violent idiots.
This is ridiculous, bro. I waited 3 hours. I waited 3 hours in line just for them to tell us it's quiet, like it's over. We're not getting anywhere, bro. It's over. It's 7 in the morning, bro.
This is so oh my God. Let us in, bro. No, yeah, that's what you
Now, look, in total fairness, I'm sure part of it is due to the fact that New York's obviously a very crowded city and there's fire marshal regulations that have to take place. But let's also be honest. A lot of those regulations, a lot of that strictness and that protocol exists in the first place. Why? Because people ruined high trust society. You know, we used to live in a country, at least this is what I'm told. This is the way my parents and grandparents describe it. There just generally used to be a lot less rules and regulations on things in America. And it was great. You know, it was freedom and people had a good time. And you had some reliable sense of trust that, you know, people aren't going to just go and ruin it. But over time, what happened? You have a bunch of the super predators, right, who come in and, you know, cause these problems or do this or that. And then in the end, what happens is basically you end up living in a police state, in a security state. A lot of people whine about that. They come out against it, but they never actually address or talk about the core reasons why that is the case, right? Why are security cameras and red light cameras, for example, all around the United States? Why do we have all the products locked up? It's because of the refusal to defend high trust society and frankly crack down on antisocial behavior, and the fact people in general probably just are becoming worse over time, and so they see reasons to take advantage of that. You know, like think about the red light cameras as one example. I don't think they should exist in principle. I think, you know, there's a lot of legal issues with it, principled moral issues, whatever. At the same time, though, how many times have we seen where there's no red light camera and some absolute idiot runs the red light without looking, you know, freaking kills a family of 4, and that's why the red light camera is there? But see, that's the thing. when we have high trust society and we allow people to ruin it, that's how you get low trust society. And then that's how you either get total chaos and or a police state. Okay, so maybe even the red light camera thing is something that ought to be studied. But anyways, nonetheless, that's all maybe true on one hand, but secondly, I'm not sure that tells the whole story, because it does also appear that Zohran Mamdani's own ego, his own need for self-aggrandizement, which is funny because this is exactly what they were complaining that Trump did over at the Knicks game, may have played a significant contributing factor, because I guess Mamdani today decided that he himself wanted to ride in the parade float with the team, which is not per city tradition. Typically, the mayor waits at the mayoral mansion, which is at the end of the parade route, and then at the end, they hand the team the key to the city. But because Mamdani wants to be, the cool mayor, because he wants to be a part of all this, he decides he wants to ride in the, I guess you could say, like open air motorcade. And if I were to guess, likely because he's there and because it's open air, you'd assume, right? Security likewise is increased due to the fact, hey, we have the politician and we have the mayor here. So, do I really care? No, whatever. Like, is it the biggest deal to me that the mayor's in the parade float? No, it's cringe, it's stupid. But if he wants to be there, he can be there. Fine. But again, it's very funny because they got mad at Trump for supposedly killing the watch party outside, and here we have Mamdani likely playing a contributing factor because he wants to be an idiot, right? And starving the people out of actually getting to see the parade because they have to increase security for the freaking mayor. So, but very socialist of him, right? The common man can no longer see the parade because he wants to be a part of it. Very typical. But here's Mamdani on the stupid parade float. Yeah, so that's the scene at the parade, and then after hordes of thousands of people get turned away, we predictably just watch total chaos and civil unrest and effectively rioting start to break out, and some of the videos you've seen on social media likely tell the story. I mean, you have, for example, in this video right here, which I'm not going to play, but this guy's basically like overdosing on drugs in the middle of the crowd, very typical New York style behavior. In this one, you can see there's a bunch of the characters just hopping the barricades, and general order begins to sort of collapse in on itself. A bunch of individuals here decided to start climbing on top of police cars in order to try to get a view. I'm going to venture to guess they weren't able to actually see anything, but that all takes place. Okay. And you could even argue to an extent a lot of these scenes are rather mild, until, of course, here's where it gets, very chaotic, very out of hand. You have these mob of people, they just start pushing, right? They're up against the barricade and they start trying to literally storm into the parade. And this is where, yeah, you could say this is when it devolves into basically rioting. Yeah, so a very typical scene we've witnessed many times in New York City, which is where you have a crowd of ghetto people, okay? They cause like a social issue in front of you, whether it was the so-called quote-unquote snowball fight, a couple months ago that Mamdani tried to frame it as, or this right here. And the poor NYPD trying to stop or regulate it all have to basically just sit there and let this whole humiliation ritual take place because they're not allowed by their own protocol to really do anything to stop this. I mean, you have a mob literally trying to bum rush you. And by the way, think about the people in this crowd who, again, let's be honest, it's probably a small minority of them that are just pushing everybody ahead. But in the situation like that, there's not much you can do, right? Someone's pushing up behind you, you got these people, then you start pushing on the person in front of you, which is to say, think about all the poor people in that crowd who didn't want that to happen. They weren't trying to storm the barricade, but now they're just getting trampled, or the only way through is forward. And yeah, that's what happens again when people, a small minority of antisocial lunatics ruin society for everybody else. So, this all sort of goes down. And then, of course, in a scene that really should not surprise anyone, the whole day ends with a shooting in Times Square. Yeah. Championship celebration, by the way. This is just people who are super happy about sports. And by the way, how many times did we hear Van Jones and these characters, Stephen A. Smith and others, say, by showing up to Madison Square Garden, Donald Trump ruined the good vibes that New York was having. Oh yeah, these good vibes this is what good vibes looks like, ladies and gentlemen, No, I think New Yorkers ruin that for themselves because New Yorkers don't know how to act, or more specifically, a portion of New Yorkers doesn't know how to act, but they're always present and they're always going to ruin it for everybody else. So you can see here, chaos apparently erupted in Times Square after a large fight, which, what is it with all the fighting? I thought we're supposed to be happy. I thought we're celebrating. I thought we're super happy our team is winning. And we're going to celebrate that by going and starting a fight with each other. And then in the middle of the fight, apparently they're pulling out knives. They're pulling out guns. So a large fight left one man slashed and a 17-year-old, which is what they're calling him, right? It's just a teenager, right? Typical teen takeover behavior. They just start shooting people. A 17-year-old firing shots into the middle of a packed crowd, which caused this very chaotic scene where you have hundreds of people fleeing. Luckily, by my understanding, that 17-year-old did not actually manage to hit anybody. He is in custody. One can only assume he will be let out of jail very soon, probably even though he's 17, but just because he's right before being an adult, he won't be tried as an adult. We've seen this story happen time and time again. And people like that, by the way, that I guarantee, because we've witnessed it, the city will not institutionalize or incarcerate in any meaningful way. Okay? Slap on the wrist type of stuff. Do you think the next time he comes out, he's going to be magically rehabilitated because they give him the education or something like that? Never happens that way. Very seldom does that actually take place. No, what's going to happen is that you're probably going to see the same exact people who are in this fight in a new headline in New York City where they cause grief for more people and cause more issues. And that's why the whole city feels like, I don't know, Animal House or something. It's just not enjoyable because of all the people causing all the problems. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So, very typical. I don't know what else to say, but, you contrast that with, for example, the behavior of these World Cup fans, the English, the Scottish, the Japanese. It's really funny how they don't celebrate their team winning by shooting one another. Oh, but you just don't want to be part of the culture. You just don't get it. You just don't feel joy. No, I said this in a prior video, but I went to the University of Florida my senior year, which was very recently. It was 2 seasons ago now. We won a national championship in basketball. Everybody was partying in the streets on University Avenue. It was a great time. Okay? But never once did I think in that moment, I'm so happy right now, which I was. I'm so freaking happy. I'm ecstatic. I want to go fight somebody. I want to go fight somebody who also supports the same team as me, especially. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're all happy. We're all trying to have a nice time. But people like this like to ruin it, right? Because, we got to go fight each other. Because why? I don't know, I do remember, however, kind of actually continuing on with this point that we've raised, how there was one kid, okay, in the middle of that big celebration, this idiot climbs a freaking light post, okay, and then falls off of it and injures himself. He's alive, whatever. But guess what? Because he caused problems, then the police shut down the whole event because he ruined it for everybody. And that was actually, to a similar extent, a prime example. Oh, you notice how one person has to always ruin it for everybody else, right? And, I think it's actually rightful and just to be angry at the people who ruin it for everybody else. But no, according to the race communists, we're just supposed to sit there and say that, he was just a teenager who made a mistake. This is just culture, guys. You guys don't know how to have fun. We know how to have fun. That's why we fight each other and shoot each other when our own team wins in the sports. And, you guys who are just like dancing and jumping and having a nice time, that's not culture. That's not culture. The real culture is when you shoot each other, I guess. I don't know, but whatever. What else can we say? That's New York City for you. I stated I didn't really care who won the championship either way, but these people are kind of showing they I don't know if they deserved it. Okay, they don't know how to handle it. But what else is new? Anyways, that said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. And until next time, God bless and peace.